This is a live mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
understand it.
We're on the air, okay. Welcome to the Kennebunkport Planning Board for September 5th, 2018. The first thing to notice is the attendance. We are missing 2 people, which means that, Larry, you're voting.
Okay.
But that's, beyond that, it's, we still have, quorum is 3 and we have 5, so we're in good shape.
All right.
Secondly, the minutes of the last EPIC meeting. Did anybody have problems with the minutes of the last one?
They're good. They were good.
Yeah, I thought they were too.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Seconded. That's, all in favor? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, that brings us to the agenda. I think in light of the last meeting that took until 10:30 at night, I would like permission, well, I guess I will grant myself permission to take items 4 and 5 out of order. If the Chambers people are here to present the Chambers, they are, okay. So the first item I'm going to take up tonight is item 180702, John and Elizabeth Chambers Site Plan Review. This is a public hearing for the approval to construct a new single-family residence to include volume expansion at number 5 Ward Road in the Cape Porpoise West District. So please.
Thank you.
Here are the updated annotations.
Oh, great.
And ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Chambers. I'm here with my wife, Betty, Elizabeth Chambers, also Sean Dustin, Dustin Construction.
Thank you.
Turn it around.
Here, I'll take that other one, sir, so I can, I'll put that in Neil's file. Thank you.
This is an update? Yes, the annotations here reference the soil erosion and also the DEP application that was sent forth.
Won't you repeat your name to the microphone, because our
Thank
minutes
you.
are being taken off the TV tonight,
okay,
so we definitely
sorry.
need to use the microphones.
Sorry for repeating. I'm John Chambers. I'm here with Elizabeth Chambers, Betty, my wife. Also here with Sean Dustin from Dustin Construction. In the last meeting, we had presented a proposal to build a home in a lot that is currently, or actually a building space that is currently a legal non-conforming. We are applying and we are within the constraints of the volume expansion. We also have a footprint that's slightly less than the previous footprint. As we went through the process last time, there were a couple items that the board had respectfully requested. One was the DEP annotations, and I'll have Sean Dustin speak to those, and then also a commitment on the soil erosion, a plan for soil erosion as the excavation commences. So we were hoping to get this application approved for rebuilding in the coming months.
Okay.
So as to the DEP permit filing, that's filled out and in place, or, filed, if you would. We're waiting that to be sent back. But in covering that, we did put the proposed construction notes that do address that permit's required, along with the proper erosion control standards that you wanted to see in the plans. I think those were the 2 major issues you wanted addressed by us.
Yep.
And certainly any questions, would field those.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
So I got one here. So I was reading your letter here, transmitting the documents, and I must say the document's quite thorough, but quite a compilation of information. And I noticed the house was built in 1959. Okay, so I noticed that the intent of the owners is they wanted to renovate it and bring it back to code levels. So when I read the word code levels, I'm thinking so, but then I read on to realize that you thought that was too expensive, so you want to tear it down, as I understand it, and build a new house, right? Okay, so so the codes that you're going to comply with are the land use planning ordinance, as well as the is a whole, the bureau, the building codes for Maine, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
Which includes, it's quite a big list here, International Residential Code, International Building Code, International Energy Conservation Code, and a bunch of others. So those are the ones you're going to be referring to. 2015 version, right? Because there is a
I would
2018.
refer to Warner on the actual date that they're using that we're following, as
Yeah.
far as which code exactly.
So, so the main uniform building and energy code is primarily composed of the I codes. And so, the building code in which, this home will be constructed to will be under MUBEC, the main uniform building and energy code. It's, for the most part, I would say it's, most of the IRC is what's been adopted from 2015. Maine still retains the 2009 energy code.
Okay,
So,
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Ed? Okay, I guess I will open up the public hearing on this topic. Do we have any abutters, neighbors, anybody who would like to speak on this particular topic? Well, then I will close the public hearing.
Wait,
There's one.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is one, I'm sorry. Okay, microphone, please. And identify yourself, of course.
Good evening, Jerry Mullen, 6 Ward Road, so I live right across the road. And I have really more of a clarification question for perhaps Werner rather than the board. It was mentioned that essentially the existing footprint is what would be used. Am I correct in understanding that?
It's been modified slightly, but very, very.
Slightly. So I guess my question is, does the deck expansion and roof count against that? Or, because I noticed in the plans that the existing deck would be expanded, the complete side and part of the front?
Correct.
If I read the plans correctly. And by the way, the design looks nice, but.
Yeah.
So does that, could you explain how that relates to is it required that we would be staying in the footprint?
well, it's a reconfiguration of the square footage that they have. And so they have a set square footage that they're dealing with in terms of the footprint, but through this process, they're able to to come up with a reconfigured design for that. And so in some cases, what you see with a reconstruct is that you may have additional space that's given towards deck area, but, it's offset with a reduction elsewhere.
Also, okay, so the net footprint is approximately the same, slightly smaller.
That's correct, yep.
Okay, thank you. That was really my question.
Okay. Any other questions on this application? Okay. Then I will close the public hearing. And do we have any more questions from the board?
I just had one other point of clarification. So, so are you going to retain any portion at all of the existing structure, or is it all going away? All going away, okay, thank you.
Okay. Then I'm willing to accept a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we will have a reading of finding of facts at the next meeting.
Okay.
And Larry is been already designated.
Yep,
And I guess that's it. So,
okay.
all right, on to the next item, which is item 180801, Jeffrey and Andrea Bove, a site plan review, initial review for approval to use a portion of their driveway to serve 3 dwellings on Mills Road. So, proceed. Again, identify yourself and such.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name's Jeffrey Bove, and I'm here with my spouse Andrea Bove and Karen Schlegel, who is a realtor in town. I'm sure most of you know her. Our request is to modify the use of our driveway, which we've lived there for over about 15 years. to serve 3 dwellings. We recently sold a lot that has a driveway. It's being used for 2. They haven't, to the Wolves, they haven't even submitted anything to build yet. So we're already approved. This segment of the driveway is serving 1 dwelling and 1 possible dwelling. And we have a lot in the back that's a 2.3 acre lot that we'd like this also to serve. And it's the least impact that we could think of on, like, we don't need a new curb cut. The existing driveway already met, as far as I know from the ordinances, already met the standards, being 16 inches, 16 feet wide minimum, the whole way up to where it splits, and then it's actually somewhat overbuilt beyond that as well. And if you wanted, I actually did a measurement every 20 feet today, just because I hadn't included that from before. But it's always been a very well-maintained driveway and kind of hidden. And that's basically it. We're not asking to build anything or expand anything currently, just for the use of this original stem for 3 dwellings.
Can I ask a clarifying question? And I think, Warren, I'd like your help with this. As best I can understand it, this is before the planning board because Article 614C says if you're going to have a shared driveway that serves 3 lots, then it needs to be approved by the planning board.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
That's why
Yep.
we're here.
You're not, this is already constructed, there's no plan here to do any
Correct.
work.
It's already, yes, it's
You
been
want the
there.
planning board to approve this existing driveway's use to serve 3 structures,
Yes.
simple as that. Werner, are there any considerations we have other than,
So, I mean, the site plan review standards for this are fairly straightforward.
Okay.
You know, they're just in that article that talks about the private, the road standards, the private road standard. And you're correct in the sense that this comes in front of the planning board because it's, its purpose is to serve 3, So you have the existing home, and then you have the adjacent lot that's next door, and then this would provide access, correct, this would provide access to the other 2 that are adjacent.
so it needs to be a 33-foot right-of-way and 16-foot
Correct.
compacted area in between? I think the
Yes, and we
submittal
took,
shows that that's the case.
we had it, since the driveway's been there, as you can see in the deeds that you have, we had John Bruckler survey based on the center line of the driveway, a 33-foot wide right-of-way or easement.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, and this is not shoreland and it's not RP?
Correct.
Okay, and so the 3 lots are conforming?
Yes,
So
they're
There's
conforming lots.
No legally non-conforming.
You're not making any
issues or
change to
anything
the curb
floating
cut?
around.
Actually, I was pretty surprised today when I measured the actual width there. Since there's no curve, it's actually 46 feet wide. It's
Yeah,
tapered down in, yeah.
Again, this is a Werner question, but since you're not changing it, I'm not sure it's in our purview. The article, the following article from the one I just quoted seems to say that the width of that cut should be between 10 and 20 feet.
Well, that would be to serve a residential use, so that would be like a single-family home use,
Well,
not
this would-
not a private road.
This is a driveway.
Well, this is a
It's a
private
private
road,
road.
is what this is. I mean, it's referenced in the application as a driveway, but it's, for our purposes, what we're looking at is a private road approval.
Even though the definition of driveway is met. I'm not being fussy about this, I'm just trying to learn.
No, it's,
All right.
I think the 2 terms seem to overlap in certain instances.
While they're doing that, did you say the Lot A is sold?
Yes.
Okay, and Lot B is not sold yet?
Lot B is under contract, yeah.
Okay. How do you propose to have the private drive maintained? Is everybody going to contribute?
Yeah, we have a road use agreement in the deeds, a deeded road use agreement.
So just out of curiosity, so when was this road first built?
Depends on when you want to say it was, I think about 25 or 30 years ago, that when they sold this to Henry Sawyer, who I'm sure was before different boards here. When we bought it in 2003, it was got its first $20,000 receipt hanging from it for upgrading it to allow the appropriate use to get emergency vehicles in. And the road that we've now just built, the spur driveway that we built to go into the Wolf's new land, was also built by Don Bryant to quite high standard. And he basically says, if I can get a 20-yard dump truck in there, we can get a fire truck and an emergency vehicles in there.
Right, okay,
So this has been there a long time.
yep. Thank you.
So 512 says roads and driveways, the following standards apply to. So it doesn't, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the definition, for driveway doesn't come right out and specifically say one, for one home, but then in 614, is where it, is where it further gets into, the number of units.
Right.
Yep. Or the number of, number of homes.
So would you agree that the planning board's business here is to make sure that this private road is consistent with the land use ordinance?
Yeah, I mean, it's here because of Article 6.14C.
Right? So having done that, we would then look at Article 5? Roads and driveways?
No, so Article 5
Or is it just
is,
shoreline?
that's your shoreland section.
Okay. So are there any other pertinent sections that we need to be,
For this particular project, really, it's all in 614.
all right,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
So, any further questions from the board? Okay. So, can I get a motion?
Move to approve this application as complete?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll have a public hearing next time, 2 weeks hence, which I will not be at.
Oh.
Can I ask one question? Are we going to, should we prepare to come up with a road name?
If it's
It's a challenge.
if it's a private road, you don't really have to, but for the fire department, for clarification,
Well,
is it boroughs?
you don't need it for the planning board, for planning board purposes, but we do have, a committee that reviews any proposed road name, any new road names that are going to be brought forward. So, and I'm happy to help you, with
Okay.
that piece of it. So, yeah, we look for conflicts, to make sure we don't wind up with, too many road names that sound the same that, may be confusing for dispatch. So,
Right,
Right.
understood.
Yep.
Okay, that it?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
all right, so,
do you have a?
given
Do you have a-
that I won't be here next time, Ed, would you mind taking this?
No, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
All right.
which brings us back to good old findings of fact. So anyhow, you'll be back in 2 weeks. Good board. Okay, first, back to the first item on the docket, we have 180601 Marybank Strom Revocable Trust, Atlantic Environmental Authorized Agent. This is the, to install a 3x14 ramp and 6x10 float. This was approved at the last meeting, and we now have a finding of facts, which Scott will read.
Thank you. following a site plan review pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance, LUO, held on July 18th, 2018, and a final public hearing held on August 1st of 18, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings of facts and conclusions, and renders the following decisions subject to the conditions numbered below. Findings of fact are as follows. The applicant is Mary Banks Revocable Trust.
Sure.
Yeah, what happened to Strome?
I don't know.
It was there this morning. Revocable Trust, the applicant, we'll make a note to
Just,
that.
yeah, put it in the thing, we'll initial it.
Yep. With a mailing address of 86 Ocean Avenue, Kennebunkport, Maine. In a letter dated February 24th, 18, the applicant has authorized Atlantic Environmental LLC to act as the agent for this matter. The property has a street address of 86 Ocean Ave, Kennebunkport, Maine, 04046. The property is located in the Village Residential Resource Protection and Shoreland zones. The owner has demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a warranty deed dated April 7th, 11, and recorded April 7th, 11 in the York County Register of Deeds at Book 16076, pages 751 through 753. The property is less than 40,000 square feet and thus is legally non-conforming, consisting of 0.61 acres more or less and a single-family residence. The property is located at 86 Ocean Ave, Kennebunkport, 04046, and is identified as Map 8, Block 2, Lot 3 on the Municipal Tax Assessor's maps. In an application dated June 11, 18, the applicant proposes to construct and install a new seasonal 3x14 ramp and a 6x10 float in Chicks Creek at Kennebunkport, Maine. The proposed dock will consist of an existing deck. All structures will be in place for less than 7 months and stored in the upland during the off-season. Number 8, the property and proposed seasonal ramp and seasonal floats are located outside the velocity zones as shown in the most recent flood insurance rate map produced by FEMA. This meets LUO 511B1 requirements. The proposed seasonal ramp, number 9, and seasonal float is not located within the habitat of a threatened or endangered species as mapped by either the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This meets LUO 511B2 requirements. Number 10, the proposed seasonal float measures 6 feet wide by 10 feet long. This meets LUO 511B3 requirements. Number 11, the applicant and property have approximately 200 feet of shoreline frontage. This meets LUO 511B4 requirements. Number 12, the proposed seasonal ramp and float will be located 128 feet from the northerly abutter and 34.5 feet from the southerly abutter. This meets LUO 511B5 requirements. 13, regarding coastal erosion and adverse impact on freshwater vegetation, any ramp, walkway, or pier shall be at least 1 foot above the ground as measured from the lowest part of the structure. Deck boards shall be a maximum of 6 inches in width and spaced 1/2 inch apart. Paint, stains, and waterproofing shall be applied in accordance with the EPA standards as not to contaminate surrounding areas. Coastal banks shall be protected from erosion by the use of suitable stairs no wider than 4 feet. The ramp will connect to the existing deck and will not result in measurable soil disturbance. The deck boards will be no greater than 6 inches in width and will be 1/2 inches apart. The applicant does not propose stairs. This meets LUO 511B6 requirements. 14, the proposed access ramp, pier, seasonal ramp, and seasonal floats are not located within an existing developed or natural beach area. This meets LUO 511B7 requirements. Number 15, the proposed seasonal ramp, access ramp, and seasonal float will be in place on a seasonal basis, stored outside the coastal wetland in the upland or off-site during the off-season. This meets LUO 511B8 511B16 requirements. Number 16, no lighting is proposed for this project. This meets LUO 511B10 is not applicable. 17, no structure is proposed to be built on, over, or abutting the proposed access ramp, pier, seasonal access ramp, or seasonal float. LUO 511B11, 511B13, and 511B14 is not applicable. Number 18, the proposed project is located in Chicks Creek, a tidal water. LUO 511B12 is not applicable. 19, the proposed ramp has an overall length of 14 feet, which is less than 1/5 of the minimum width of Chicks Creek at this point, which was measured at 114 feet. This meets LUO 511B15 requirements. Number 20, the proposed seasonal ramp and seasonal float will be used for recreational purposes. This meets LUO 511B17 requirements. Number 21, the proposed seasonal ramp and seasonal float is not an enlargement, alteration, repair of the rebuilding or the rebuilding of a non-conforming pier, dock, walkway, wharf, ramp, or float. LUO 511B18 is not applicable. Number 22, the applicants have received approvals from the Kennebunk River Committee on May 15th of 18 and the Army Corps of Engineers. Number 23, the applicants have requested no submission or performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport LUO. 24, pursuant to the requirements of Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance, which is guidelines for decisions, the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. A,
Why don't you just read the ones where we had to vote, the 4-to-1 votes? That's okay.
so A, yes?
Yeah, but they're all yes, is what we're saying,
Uh-huh.
except that
And then there's a couple
and
non-applicables.
a couple not applicables, but there's at least one of them where
Yes. About our
we
votes.
did a vote.
Sorry?
So
Okay.
read that one.
Yes. N, the proposed use will not have an adverse impact on significant scenic vistas or significant wildlife habitat, parentheses, nor will have such an impact that could be avoided by reasonable modification of the plan, under parentheses. The findings were yes. Note that the board voted 4 yes to 1 no on this item. I continue. Yeah.
25.
Number 25, when a proposed development will be located within the shoreland or resource protection zones in addition to the requirements of the Kennebunkport LUO, Article 10, the townwide regulation in Article 6, the performance standards for specific activities and land users in Article 7, approval of the development will also require the board makes positive findings based on the information presented, that the proposed use, is yes. I missed that.
So, yeah, so just on the,
Okay, here we go.
point.
And so
point out
number
that-
D, will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aqualife, bird, or other wildlife habitat. The finding was yes. However, there's a note that the board voted 4 yes to 1 no on this item. Likely, that was D. On E, will conserve shore, cover, and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters. The finding was yes, with a note that the board voted 4 yes to 1 no on this item.
I'll just read for conclusions.
So for conclusions, Articles 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. And as noted above, the board makes no such findings. Decision, the site plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval. The applicant pursuant to 10-11 shall notify the planning board prior to the transfer of rights to construct the approved project. The applicant must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation to the form of a copy, therefore attested by the Register of Deeds, before any permits may issue or before any construction activity may commence. The applicant will comply with all terms and conditions of the Town of Kennebunkport ordinances, as well as the Maine DEP and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers approvals.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the findings?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the findings are accepted, and so let's get them signed off. Make sure you
Yes.
note the
I will.
missing last name there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I guess the last findings of fact here, and then we'll go for why everybody's here. We have item 180602, Matthew and Donna Enoch, Sebago Techniques authorized agent. This is approval to make minor site improvements to the driveway and parking on 41 Ocean Ave. So Ed, proceed.
Let me read these. Kennebunkport Planning Board findings of fact and decision. Application of Matthew S. and Donna Enoch, 41 Ocean Ave, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046. Following site plan reviews pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held on 18 July, 1 August, and 15 August 2018, and a public hearing held on 1 August 2018, the Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings of facts and conclusions and renders the following decision, subject to the conditions enumerated below. The findings of fact are as follows. The applicant is Matthew S. and Donna Enoch, the applicant, with a mailing address of 13 Brookfield Ave, Sinking Spring, Pennsylvania, 19608. The property has a street address of 41 Ocean Ave, Kennebunkport, Maine 04046. The property is identified as Map 10, Block 1, Lot 10 on the municipal tax assessor's maps. The property is located in the riverfront zone, which, per Article 3.1 of the Land Use Ordinance, LUO, is considered a shoreland general development district for the purposes of compliance with the Maine DEP shoreland zoning guidelines and therefore subject to the shoreland zone provisions of the Land Use Ordinance. The applicant authorized Sebago Technics, Inc. of South Portland, Maine, to act as their agent for this matter in a letter dated 6 June 2018. The applicant was represented by Mr. Stephen Doe, registered landscape architect from Sebago Technics at the proceedings. The applicant has demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a warranty deed recorded in York County Registry of Deeds, Book 17-245, pages 460 and 461 on the 1st of June 2016. The property is 104.42 feet wide, 78.92 feet deep, and comprises 8345 square foot per on-site measurement data provided by the applicant. It contains a two-story single-family residence with 2360 square foot of living space, according to the assessor's property card. Water and sewer are public. The lot and structure are legally non-conforming. Based on survey data provided by the applicant, the lot area is 8343 square feet, which is below the 20,000 foot square minimum. The structure is entirely within the 75-foot setback from the Kennebunk River high water mark. Minimum setbacks for the side and rear, the 15-foot requirement, are not met. And the lot coverage is 46.7%, which exceeds the 20% maximum. In an application dated 14 June 2018, the applicant proposes to remove the existing gravel driveway off of Wharf Lane and use that area to reconfigure and increase the existing parking they have on Ocean Ave. This would create a loop driveway and lessen the need to back up onto busy Ocean Ave. B, remove the existing patio on the Wharf Lane side. The patio was created during prior work to seal up the garage, which frequently flooded, and fill the hole. The patio is not allowed by code and would be removed as part of this application. C, elevate the land on the Wharf Lane side to create a level lawn area accessible from the first floor level which should take the place of the removed driveway and patio, items A and B above. A boulder retaining wall, or optionally a vertical stone wall, would be built adjacent to Wharf Lane to allow for this grade increase. D, modify the front entry of the house. Remove 2 external stairs to compensate for the increased lot coverage due to the increased eaves of the entry. And E, remove existing timber walls, steps, stones, and gravel areas to compensate for the increased lot coverage for the changes to the front driveway and walkway. Item 10, the applicant provided an update to the original site plan application package on the 26th of July 2018, which contained additional lot information requested by the planning board at the initial meeting, and revised site plan sheets 4 and 5 to show a vertical stone wall instead of a boulder retaining wall. 11, in a letter to the planning board dated 7 August 2018, the applicant provided the timeline of the previous updates to the property to seal the garage door and fill the hole. See item B above. The letter states that the town records, in conversation with the code enforcement officer and builder, Kevin Lord, confirmed that the fill was placed on 9 November 2016. The CEO confirmed to the board that the applicant has remained in contact with him since November 2016 about their intent to complete the improvement in the manner described in the current application. The letter also states that health issues and time needed for planning and design have delayed project completion. For these reasons, and because the proposed improvements would result in an improved safety for the site and neighborhood from improved parking access, and move the non-conforming impervious surface further away from the river, the board grants a 1-year extension per Article 88B of the LUO to the 1 year allowed by that article for non-conforming use discontinuance. The extension allows the approximately 180 square foot of area filled in November 2016 to be counted as existing impervious surface. On that basis, the proposed plan would result in a slight improvement in nonconformance, decreasing lot coverage from 3,903 square foot, 46.7%, to 3,875 square foot, 46.4%. Item 12, in order to not increase the building footprint of the nonconforming structure, the plan proposes to eliminate 2 existing external stairs in order to offset the area added by expanding the eaves of the entry. The board advised the applicant that although Article 8.3.A.3 of the Land Use Ordinance does not consider the addition of steps for access to the ground floor, nor the addition of exterior stairs for access to the second floor of a building, an enlargement or expansion of an existing use, external stairs are specifically included in the definition of building footprint, and as such are to be included in considering a possible expansion or not of a non-conforming structure. 13, the applicant has requested no submission or performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. 14, pursuant to the requirements of Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance, Guidelines for Decisions, and the Planning Board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. Tom, do you suggest we read these, or?
You can just state.
They all are either, all requirements are either met or not applicable. No controversy.
We have the other one too, or do you not have the RP one?
Item 15, when a proposed development will be located within the shoreland or resource protection zones, in addition to the requirement of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance 10, the town-wide regulations in Article 6, the performance standards of specific activities and land uses in Article 7, approval of the development will also require that the board make positive findings based on the information presented that the proposed use will maintain safe and healthy conditions, won't result in water pollution, erosion, sedimentation to surface waters, will adequately provide the disposal of all wastewater, will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat, will conserve shore cover and visual, as well as the actual points of access to inland and coastal waters, will protect archaeological and historical resources as designated in the comprehensive plan, will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use, and is in conformance with the performance standards set forth in Section 5.6 of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. In all cases, the answer is either yes or not applicable. So as in conclusion, Articles 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the Planning Board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. And as noted above, the Board makes no such findings. Decision: the site plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval, if any, pursuant to Article 10.11 and 10.12E. The applicant pursuant to 10.12E shall notify the Planning Board prior to the transfer of rights to construct an approved project. 2, the applicant must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of such recordation in the York County Registry of Deeds before any permits may be issued or before any construction activity may commence. And 3, the applicant shall comply with all the terms and conditions of the Town of Kennebunkport ordinances as well as the main DEP approvals. Dated September 5th, 2018.
Any comments?
I have a comment. I got comments dated very late, and so he didn't have a chance to really look them over that much, but I want to point out that I can go along with the findings of fact, but they're not quite right, okay? I'm going to point out that I've been through this thing now ad nauseum. I've spoken to the Maine Municipal Association attorney, and this is really not an expansion of a structure that we're talking about. It's an expansion of use. And what we're looking at when you change stairs for a portico or eaves or whatever, okay, is you're looking at expansion of use as defined in the land use ordinance, where it says, it goes on operating season, or the use of more floor area or ground area devoted to a particular use. And that's where building footprint definition comes in, because it covers external stairs and it covers eaves and overhangs. This has nothing to do with Section 8, where you would look at an expansion of structure. That is very narrowly defined. That structure is very narrowly defined as either surface area or volume contained within exterior walls or on decks or patios. It doesn't include steps, and it doesn't include overhangs if you're looking at within exterior walls. So I just want to clarify my position on that. And that makes sense because when you're looking at somebody taking external stairs to make a portico, that's allowed to move that around because, basically you're still in residential use. Mm-hmm. Okay? But you're not taking external stairs to expand structure within the definition of Article 8. So you couldn't take external stairs and make a patio or a deck from them, because you would be taking what is defined in lot coverage and putting it into Section 8, which is much more narrowly defined, which covers patios and decks. So that may not make sense to you, but I've spent a day and a half on it, okay?
No, the question, is there some?
I think we can both get there.
Yes.
We just get
Is
there
there-
in
is there
In a different way.
Okay,
Yep.
is there a clarification you could add to Ed's to make it?
I think
finished?
as they stand, they will be okay.
Okay,
I just, if this comes up again,
okay,
I
then,
think we need to really clarify it so that people don't think they can take stairs and make patios and stuff like that.
Okay.
That was the only concern that I had.
got it. So that will presumably be in the minutes,
Yes.
and that should be adequate. So
Yep.
given that, can we have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the findings of fact as are.
I'll
Okay.
second it. In favor? Okay. So, we can get that thing signed, and I guess our friend Sandra over there can do the honors of notary. But in the meantime, I guess we're here. So we now at item 180201, Binnacle Hill Phase 2, final subdivision review, continued deliberation. So I guess we have to continue deliberating at this point.
I gave you a list of points to do.
Yes, you did. I have them right here.
Oh, good.
Well, I forgot to bring them. So, but they're here on my phone. Nice.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I have them somewhere too.
Yeah. Okay, in terms of things that we need to discuss on this topic, we'll need to approve a stack of waivers, so we might as well work through those for starters. First one is road length of Timber Way versus the dead-end street, the 1,000-foot versus 1,500. So I guess I would like a motion on that, and we can approve that particular waiver. That's, looks like you're in pain over there, Ed. Is there a problem? No?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
So the motion is to waive the
The road length.
requirement for road length from what to what?
The requirement is that dead-end roads not be more than 1,000 foot. This one is 1,500 or whatever the
Okay.
number is.
All right. So to exceed 1,000 feet,
To
basically.
exceed, to exceed the requirement, yes.
Okay,
So,
well, so moved.
okay. Second?
I'll second that.
All right, so can we vote on that guy? All right, so, okay, road length, we're saying 1A. Road length. Okay, the second piece was also in their application, was the side slopes over wetlands. And,
Do you want to use that?
is that the same thing I was?
Yes.
I'm looking at here, yes, that's much easier, thank you. Okay, anyway. So that's the second item, is the side slopes over the wetlands. And I think we all pretty well agreed to that, but we just need to, I'll move that we approve that.
We have discussed that.
It's been discussed quite a bit,
Yes.
yeah.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
Good. The shared drive, private right-of-way, the shared access, that's for a couple of different, a couple of different lots that have those, so we needed to get that approved also. I'll so move.
Say again, what specifically are we,
This is lots,
what requirement are we waiving?
25, 26, 27, and 28.
There's a pair of,
there
there are two
They're
pairs of.
shared driveways.
Those are the driveways. Which of our regulations are we granting a waiver against? I'd just like to be
It's in the subdivision regs.
right.
Subreg, yeah.
When she does the minutes, it would be useful to
So
say.
it's
we-
12, I believe this is correct, I've gotten this wrong in the past, but 12.2, point B, point 2, point F.
12(2)B, 2F. Thank you, Michael.
So, okay. We probably ought to fix that. Well, the others were also in your proposal, so there. Okay, the next item on this list was the removal of a significant tree. And now, that was, whether it was significant or not was
It was in
Debated.
dispute.
Was that
yes.
voted on?
Hang on, did we vote on that
The
one?
Norway
About the
spruce.
shared access?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I don't think the last waiver was voted on.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
You might stick up there, Mike. Okay. Can I have a motion on approving the shared driveways?
So we're moving to approve shared access for lots 25, 26, 27, and 28? Is that right?
25, well, it's paired, 25,
Paired.
26, and 27, 28.
Okay, 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay. So move.
Okay. Second. Approved. Okay. Now, back to the significant tree which was up in,
Oh, yeah.
Which was in dispute.
was in dispute as to
But
where
just
you
in
measured it.
case it is significant, I put it in there. So it's the Norway spruce that needs to be removed for this particular purpose,
For
That-
lot 21.
for Lot 21.
Yeah.
That's right. That was near the Millers'
Yes.
property, yes.
I'm sorry, is planning board approval required for that? I didn't think it was.
If it is significant, it is supposed to remain on the property.
I don't think that's entirely true.
I don't see that in the regs.
It's not a requirement that all significant trees.
No,
Remain.
it's a requirement to identify,
Yeah.
the significant trees, but, there's not a requirement necessarily to keep them. It's, as I understand it, the purpose is to identify the significant trees so that the board is aware of what's there.
So
But-
it's not a specific waiver.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. Typically, the waiver that we have usually dealt with
To
the
bring
trees
it
has
down
been whether you do the
somewhere
tree
else.
survey at all.
Okay.
But that is a regulation.
Correct, the tree survey,
Okay, so
yes.
that would,
Yeah. I mean, I
I'm
think.
gonna take that out of the waiver list here. Okay, the hammerhead turnaround as compared to
Circular.
a circular. And again, that is a part of the sub-reg that is being violated, and they did request it in their proposal.
I just have a question, again, for Werner. Sorry to keep going to you on this, but I thought the regulation talked about a cul-de-sac. Do you believe that the regulation requires it to be circular, as it's currently written?
I think it defines the cul-de-sac.
Well, it defines it as, it defines it as such as a cul-de-sac.
All right.
So what you have here, on 1212, or 12.2-3, I think it's H, dead-end streets. So you have the design standards, the dead-end streets shall be constructed to provide a cul-de-sac turnaround with the, with the requirements, and then it gives
It
the.
talks about a radius.
And then it gives the
All right.
radius requirements that are there, and so, I think what what's being asked for is a waiver from the requirement of the dead end being a cul-de-sac.
It almost seemed like an expansion rather than a waiver per se, or a clarification, but I'm fine with waiver if you think that's appropriate. It is a cul-de-sac in the sense that it is a dead end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same section that you use, where it makes reference to the length
the
limit is
1,000 feet.
to the 1,000 feet as well. So
Right.
it's the same section, because it says dead end streets or cul-de-sacs will be no longer than 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
So in terms of the hammerhead,
Got it.
we're violating the radius
The
and
sh-
stuff,
yeah, the specific definition.
the specific
Right.
definition, so that's
So-
why we're going to grant the waivers.
So the proposal is to substitute a hammerhead dead
Correct.
end in place of a cul-de-sac.
Correct.
That's the
Correct.
idea.
In place of a circular one, yeah.
So isn't this kind of part of the first one about the 1,000 foot or not?
It could easily
It
be.
is, it's the same
It really is,
section.
it's the same section, it could really be considered the same waiver.
Right, and when we discussed it, the rationale we gave ourselves, at least I thought, was that this made sense because the road was going to terminate in a way that had an emergency access, and this was, Part of that was incorporating the
Yeah.
specific shape. So it all does sort of tie together in my mind.
So it would go well in the FOF for the, kind of together since it's one paragraph, right?
It is one paragraph, but the paragraph deals with dead-end streets, and now we've converted a dead-end street basically to one that has an emergency exit. So
Right.
you could consider it all in the waiver of, under that particular section,
Yeah.
Yeah.
both of those. So for the findings of fact, I think
Yeah.
you would consider both of them,
Okay.
find both of them.
For the same
Up
section.
to H.
Right.
Yeah,
It's one
Yeah.
waiver to that section.
right.
Okay, so we're basically, the first waiver covers both. I mean,
Right.
the part-
But I think both needed approval.
Yes.
Well, no, I'm not disagreeing with that. I just.
No, I know. I know.
So why don't we just for good luck approve the hammerhead design and exactly how it gets into the
Yeah.
finding of facts?
Yeah.
Right. I just want to give the appearance that we're waiving things willy-nilly, because I think it was a comprehensive and well-thought-out.
Yeah,
And
and
Idea.
there was in the, the proposal was that way.
that's right. Yeah, I
So
wasn't saying it was my
just-
idea, but.
This just augments the first one then, really? So
Yes.
This is just a
Yep.
separate vote on an augmentation of the
Right.
first
There you go.
waiver. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. So why don't
All in
we-
favor?
so are we voting on the augmentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, that kind of completes the set of things you mentioned on your list here.
Right. The
Okay.
rest of those, a lot of them right there were in the engineers, comments. And they have been addressed, but I just wanted to list them to make sure that everybody knows that they were addressed in the second
In the second.
drawing, set of plans and so forth, or the third set of plans, I guess.
Yeah, but that came out of the
The Acorn
Acorn
engineering
engineering
report,
portion.
so a lot of that.
Okay.
And we could just take them together and list them, and then say, things have been done, basically.
Okay, you want to read through, or?
You're suggesting capturing that list in the findings of fact, or is?
I'm just saying, for point of discussions, to note that we looked at the Acorn engineering and
Right.
every point that they made was addressed
I agree.
and corrected, that we should at least talk about it before we vote on the whole subdivision. It's not a waiver, it's just an understanding that we have looked at,
No, I
everything
agree
was-
that we have
We,
looked at these and we discussed them and we asked specifically the ones we didn't think were covered. Are you suggesting we go over them all again?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
No, I'm just suggesting reading down them and putting into the record that we have discussed them.
Okay.
They have been included in the plans as needed and changes have been made.
yeah, okay.
Okay, shall I just
Feel
read the
free.
list?
Yeah,
Okay.
Read away.
Okay, one of them was crosswalk marking for Timberway and Henchy Way to be added. The hydrant should be added to the plan. Materials and pavement markings were added to the plan. Wetland impact areas were noted. Test pits and open areas were noted. Vernal pool was noted. The graphic scale was corrected in accordance with the engineer's suggestion. Detail for box culvert at the wetland crossing, I don't even know what that means, was corrected.
That was the
Okay.
one we waived up
Right.
above.
The sewer lines and connections were noted, and the force main services were noted as well. The lots with grinder pumps were noted on the plan. The MDEP and the Army Corps of Engineer review on wetland impacts were noted. The stormwater management reports reflect project design changes was put in there. The trench detail was added to reflect the 6-foot bedding thickness. The BMP design calculation sheets were updated for filter areas and sizing. There are changes to the linear project treatment percentages table that was updated. Additional information about existing storm drain network was added. The HydroCAD model was revised to show accurate storm drain. And note was added regarding protection of the wetland boundaries. The engineer also noted the permits that were to be submitted to the town were the NRPA Tier 2 Wetland Alteration Permit, the Army Corps of Engineers permit, the amendment to the MDEP SLOTA permit, residential sewer connection application, Phase 1 archaeology survey, blasting permit, and street opening permit when you have those. I don't know if this is part of that. Oh, yeah, Timberway, well, some of this is not. I think we should go, well, let me just read the ones that are, okay. ADA ramps between Binnacle Lane and Timberway should be noted on there. Site distances between Binnacle Lane and Timberway should be noted. Details of how stormwater runoff on Timberway has been updated. The shoulder width on Timberway has been updated. I think the parking street signs have been noted on there, I believe, right? Okay, and then the rest of it are things for us for discussion. Yep.
Let's make this all signed, okay.
So,
Pass this back down to where.
so there's a question on Timberway as to whether it was going to become a public road or not. And now we have new direct guidance, basically, from the Board of Selectmen that they're not going to accept any more public roads. I don't know if
Which has nothing really to do with us,
this,
though.
which has nothing to do with planning board jurisdiction. I just wanted to note that it doesn't have anything to do with our jurisdiction.
That's right,
Okay? On Henchy Way, we have agreed that there's no through traffic. Just want to make sure of that. The width of Henchy Way, I believe, is decided at 12 feet. Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
paved area.
Yeah, you've got paving in here too. It's going to be paved. There's going to be a walkway with good visibility where it meets Kings Highway. That was part of engineering as well. The plowing has been discussed, and we've accepted the applicant's proposal for plowing and where the snow would be put, if there's enough snow to be put somewhere. That there is going to be no lighting.
Yeah.
I think everyone has agreed on that.
Everyone's
There's
agreed
no
to that,
lighting
yes.
on Henchy Way. Something out of our jurisdiction, which was brought up during public hearing, was water shut off for the millers, and that's not within our purview, not within our jurisdiction. That has to be worked out privately if there is a problem. The placement of the gate was discussed, and I think the planning board has agreed that where it is on the plan is probably where it should be right now.
Certainly consistent with our discussions in the ordinance, yeah.
Right. In terms of signage, the applicant has agreed that there'll be a sign at the end of Henchy Way that there is no parking and there is no entry. Okay. And also no parking on, I believe, Timber Way as well. Is that correct?
I don't think we talked about that.
Have we talked about that? I thought we
a
did start
private
to
road.
discuss it. There was some talk
was
of it
some
in the
talk.
public hearing about parking on Timberway.
Yeah, there was.
Signage.
We heard, we certainly heard comments from
Yeah.
at least one member of the public about parking on Timberway and perhaps people using that to access
I
the
recall
beach.
the discussion
all the way down.
seemed to talk about enforcement or the lack thereof, and I thought it just fizzled at that point.
That's my recollection as well.
Okay, so that remains up to the applicant, basically, whether they want to put up signs
Right,
on
the whole-
Timberway.
Yeah, I mean,
or in the
initially,
homeowners.
we believed it was, or, you know, whether or not it's gonna be a public road, I guess is, it's not been decided, and you know what I mean? If it is, that would obviously be under that enforcement ability would be with the town, I guess, and if not, it will be with the homeowners association.
Okay. There was a question raised after the public hearing closed, and the only reason I'm going to bring it up is that the applicant did answer. You've been better off being silent. It's outside of the planning board jurisdiction. There's no prima facie evidence of any other survey other than the one that was presented by the applicant, and at this point, the planning board cannot take that into consideration. Something from the Acorn Engineering, again, the center line has been confirmed on the plan where 20 feet meets a King's Highway. We have heard from the fire department that the hammerhead and the gate meets the fire department needs as well as the 12-foot road.
Right.
Okay. Henchy Way, I believe the applicant has agreed that's going to remain a private road, no matter what. As far as one of the things raised in the public hearing was the issue of growth requirements of the town. Again, that's out of the purview of the planning board at this point. That would be up to the Board of Selectmen to determine whether that
And
is
the growth
effective.
planning committee.
And the growth planning committee. So it's outside our jurisdiction, and we do not rule on that at all. Blasting permits, the idea of blasting permits for reaching soil filters and depth was raised by the engineer, and also in the public hearings, there was concern about blasting. The applicant has to follow all the rules of the blasting permits and, work with the neighborhood and determine, how that blasting is done. There are regulations as to the hours it can be done. There's regulations as to how it's going to be done. There are regulations, I believe, in dealing with the neighborhood and the abutting properties regarding that. There was a question about barrier for headlights at the end of the hammerhead of Timber Way and site at the end of Timber Way. And I want to point out that the applicant's response was not completely accurate in that Timber Way hammerhead is a turnaround and only showed the site, the headlights going forward and not in turning. But it is up to the applicant to put up any kind of barrier to site. The planning board can suggest, but I don't think anybody's going to push on it at this point, unless anybody has any concerns about that, other than me, who raised it. I still have concerns about it, but I leave it up to the applicant. The homeowner's documents, there were comments about the homeowner's documents in terms especially of buffering and signage, and I believe the applicant has addressed that and revised the homeowner's documents. And as far as landscape buffers and restrictions, those have been included in the homeowner's documents. And I don't know whether other members of the planning board feel this way, but I feel that they were dealt with adequately. So it's up to you to discuss that. So those are the issues that I found that as I went through the letters that were submitted, and I went through the engineering report and the fire department and police report. Does anybody have any other issues they want to bring up before discussion? No?
Ed?
Nope. That was a comprehensive list, I think.
Yeah, nice list.
Yeah, that was very complete.
Yeah, very complete.
Okay.
Okay, so the public hearing having been closed before, we are now basically ready to vote on Pinnacle Hill 2. So, unless somebody has any more comments on it. So, let me hear a motion.
Motion to approve the application?
I will second that.
with waivers that we just approved?
With the waivers
Yeah,
we just
okay.
approved.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. You're gonna take this wonderful thing and read the finding of facts next week?
Oh, I am.
2 weeks from
God,
now?
that's right. You planned this.
This is just for the planning, just
yeah,
for the
well,
planning
you know,
board.
Hey, I've had this cruise planned for a long time.
Well, you did give me an outline, so let's just start with some.
Tom,
I gave
Tom,
you-
one of the things,
And Ed is gonna be around and wants to help.
I do, I think that the timeline for this, now we're talking, the next meeting is in 2 weeks,
Yes, it
correct?
is.
This is a rather complex
Yes, it
findings
is.
of
It
fact. I think you've got the outline, and my own inclination would be to include, in some manner, a listing of these topics in the findings of fact, that they
Yes.
were discussed
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
board was
I agree.
satisfied with the results.
Yeah.
But I think we have a habit on the board, we can't have meetings outside of public meetings. But we do normally take the findings of fact and we'll send it out to the others. If you have any corrections, it gets sent back to the author. We can't have an email discussion about it, but there's a chance to catch errors and omissions and things like that in advance. If we could agree to do that on this one and do it
Early.
earlier than
Okay.
Well, do we,
a target
is there,
anyway.
is there any reason we can't extend right now, just say the
We can
finding
extend.
facts will be a month from, will be in the first
Well,
October
I know
meeting?
they can't
Or do they need?
file for permits until they record the findings of
I
fact. So I
understand that, so I
don't
don't-
want it to be a burden on the applicant.
Well, let's see if we can get it done in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of
Okay.
time, and I will sit and try to get it done early. Tom has already given me an outline of findings of
Good.
fact. He started them.
Well, yeah, I basically took.
I just think this is a complex enough one and important enough that if we could all just take the time to do it as soon as Nina can get a draft out.
What I did is I took the Pinnacle one finding of facts.
Yep, okay.
And tweaked it,
Yeah.
and that's all.
But that's fine.
You know, so that's an
That
all,
gives me
it's
a
gotta be a
start.
real good start, anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so, this is now approved, and, we will try to get the finding of facts ready for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, one more thing, because it's gonna come up to the,
I got it. Sandy.
sometime, I don't know how soon, the telecommunications
Oh, yeah, that one.
ordinance changes. Now,
Yeah.
the first thing I noticed here was, Werner, when you brief brand-new planning board members in the future, tell them this exists. You know, I never saw this.
I've never seen.
Yeah.
I've been on this board for a long time, and I never saw this.
You know, to be honest with you, I've never had to bring an application to the planning board.
Are there any more like this?
Oh, you mean as far as these standalone ordinances like
Standalone
this?
ordinances that we have. Well, the sewage, we know.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the sewer ordinance, I mean, you have the floodplain management ordinance that's a standalone, you know, you know, that it is kind of a hybrid, you know, some of it's, well, a hybrid in the sense that some of it's planning board, some of it's code enforcement officer, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's any other ones like that floating around. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, this is really kind of the technical document that, you know, just stands alone.
It's like only gonna come to us if it's in one, there's only one zone you can build a new antenna in, other than these little guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, just,
I mean, I haven't had the only applications that I've had since I've been here have been for co-locations on existing towers. You know,
Yeah.
or you know, where they've been doing reconfiguration of antennas or the minor expansion pieces. You know, there haven't been any, you know, I haven't had any new applications for new towers, you know.
So
hey guys, take it outside.
Do we have smokestacks?
Do we have smokestacks?
Yeah, there's a thing in here referring to putting them on smokestacks. Do we have smokestacks in the town?
Well, I mean,
So Tom, can we
No.
start with?
No, we
the-
don't have
the-
any at
the-
this
The purpose
particular
here
time.
is,
Okay.
this is online, this document
Yes.
that we have in front of us. But the best I can tell, sections 10 through 15 are missing. Am I,
Are those not changed?
no, they're not
I mean,
online.
are they,
They're not online.
this is changes. Oh, they're not even online.
No.
Okay.
And,
Well,
and
let me start with our purpose here, is that there will be a joint planning board and selectmen to present this to a public hearing. And at some point, and I don't know when this is, but I don't think they've scheduled it, but that joint meeting, they're going to ask what the planning board thinks of this. Have we looked at it? We can actually stand up at that and say, no, we haven't, we just got it. But, you know, if there's anything glaring, I didn't see anything other than total surprise that it existed.
I thought, again, I'm looking for some help here, but I looked online, I couldn't even find the whole document.
Right.
It seems to be missing the definition section. Part of this, the last page of it says, oh, here's some additional amendments to the land use ordinance. Not to this ordinance, to the
Right.
land use
But
ordinance.
those are just definitions, I think, but
right,
yes.
those are specific pieces that, that go within the definitions, section of the land use ordinance.
Of the land use ordinance.
That's correct.
Right. So this
Go ahead.
defines wireless telecommunications facility. And it seems to include an antenna as one of the possible forms of the, I guess I'm stuttering a little bit here because I found this very circular, this
Yeah.
document.
Is it possible for, I mean,
To get a complete one?
what you're asking is a proposed amendment, but we don't have the whole document that you're amending.
I'm grabbing it right now.
So I was wondering, why is this coming up now? Somebody have some kind of prospective, telecommunications project that they want to build? How did this
I
bubble
believe
up to the
these-
surface?
these,
So,
let
So a couple of items. I mean, one, the other portions of it don't have any specific approvals or amendments, but I can certainly get you all a copy of
Yeah,
what
I
the
think we
rest
need
of.
the whole thing.
Yeah, what
Oh,
the
yeah.
rest of it
We're
is.
responsible
Yeah,
for
we'd
it.
like to see the whole
Yep.
thing.
Okay, I think in answer to Larry's question, there are some new technologies coming along that they're just gonna put these little guys on top of existing utility poles. And they would like Werner to approve those rather than us.
I mean,
And I think I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
So if you look now, wireless transmission facilities are a use that's called out in the land use ordinance. It's only allowed, and it does require a planning board review, what's that called,
In free enterprise.
in the free enterprise zone.
yeah,
So,
and
so if you don't change the definition to exclude these small co-located wireless transmission facilities, and this definition doesn't seem to do that, then I think you're only gonna allow these new ones in the one area, and that's
that's
not gonna fly.
no, I mean,
That
and
defeats
that's
the whole purpose.
right. Well, the whole intent of this is to, for it not to be, defined as such, because ultimately that was the issue, is that these small cellular nodes that, with the old ordinance or the current ordinance had to be treated the same as, as a 150-foot tower.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't any allowance that, allowed for them to show up anywhere else, because based on the definition, from 1999, that's how these things were going to be treated.
You can only put them on towers and smokestacks and things like that.
Yes.
So maybe we wanna somehow,
So-
this needs to break out the things we are gonna restrict to the free enterprise zone, and then everything else.
Right.
What
I
is it
certain-
we're not gonna allow anywhere except free enterprise zone? Is it big cellular towers?
Well, let me just go through here and address the, and
What is a small?
so in
cellular node anyway?
so in 6.9, 6.9 addresses the, addresses the zoning, the zoning question that you have.
6.9, I only have 6.8 in here.
Yeah, there is no
You
6.9.
don't have it? Okay.
See, I'd like to know how it conflicts with other ordinances. which
6.9
one it
zoning.
rules.
Yep, 6.9 zoning.
It's
Zoning.
not
Yep.
shown on the
Okay.
table
Notwithstanding
of
any
contents.
provision in a municipal ordinance to the contrary, small cell facilities and co-located wireless telecommunications facilities or antennas installed on alternative power structures shall be a permitted use in all zoning districts.
It would help if you had the pages numbered.
Nope.
It's almost about 4 pages
It's
from the
after
end.
6.8, there's an amendment of 6.9.
Correct.
Oh, okay, but it's not reflected in the first page.
No, it's
Yeah,
not,
it is.
it's not,
Not in the table of contents.
it's not a table of
Oh,
contents.
no, it isn't, I'm sorry.
It's not in the table of contents, yeah. Got it.
It's an addition. Yeah, it would help to know, severability, I understand, but what happens with conflicts with other ordinances, to understand that in conjunction with this,
Mhm.
especially if you're gonna allow it in all zoning districts. I don't know what a small cellular node is. Is this my weather station?
No. No, I mean, I can provide to the board the memo, and I believe that I had, but I mean, maybe I hadn't, but, the memo that I provided to the Board of Selectmen that, that gave an actual description, which actually showed a couple of
That would help.
photographs to
That would
that.
That would
so-
help me.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I
But,
think,
but a complete document would be a
Yeah.
good.
so I think
starting
the
Yep.
point.
answer is the planning board pretty much agrees with the concept, but we need to,
Mm-hmm.
there- we think that the package needs work.
Yeah, nope, understood.
And when is, do you have an,
Yeah,
trying to get this on the ballot for November?
So yes, I mean, it's slated to be set for the November ballot, but ultimately what goes to the voters are only the amendments, so it's not the entire, it's not the entire ordinance. So what you have is essentially is the language for the warrant article, so we don't necessarily provide the entire ordinance, for that particular piece, but only the portions that are being modified.
But we
Then
would,
you have to have
we
an
would,
explanation.
But I'm happy
We
to
would
give you
point-
all the whole piece of it.
but when people read the
Yeah.
warrant, that they'll want to go online and be able to see the whole ordinance, right? So somewhere, I ought to be able to see the whole
Sure.
document.
Yeah, which it is. I mean, if you go to the website, I mean,
I couldn't find it on the website, is what I'm saying.
okay,
I can only find what's printed here.
yeah, it's under, wireless telecommunication ordinance.
All right.
So yeah,
So
it's all,
any-
it's in its
any-
entirety there, but I'm
That-
happy to give
thanks.
everybody a copy.
I failed.
What is the, given that this is trying to be on a ballot in November, backing up from then, when is the joint meeting of the selectmen and the planning board?
I don't have the date for that yet, but as soon as I know what that date is, I'll pass that
You'll
on to
be
the
back.
board.
I'll probably be back. So it'll be,
Yeah.
you think it's
I believe-
October then?
Yeah, I believe it's in October.
Okay, well, then if I'm still,
Maybe you can schedule another trip.
well, my daughter is
There you go.
is going to have we're giving her the RAV4, so we have to
Nice.
drive it out to Michigan.
All right.
So I can coordinate
Not
the
between the
time on that.
20th and the 26th, I'll be gone.
Anyway, so I believe that the sense is we're kind of,
Waiting
Thi-
for the complete.
that we'd like to see the complete
Oh,
thing,
that's
but in
part of the
general,
homeowners
we
association
generically, we
document.
generally agree
The
with,
changes that we need.
and
Yeah.
so when we come to
It's nothing we
to
really
that
have
joint
to
meeting,
worry
we'll
about.
have a good
It's just
idea of
really
it,
to
hopefully.
soothe them.
So I guess, unless anybody wants, I don't think we need a motion on that, so.
How about a motion to resign?
Hmm?
How about a motion to close the meeting?
A motion to adjourn?
A motion to, that's the
That's a really good idea.
Multiple seconds on that one.
That's right, okay. All in favor? All in favor.
Yeah.
We are done.
A good one.
Nice job.